Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be showing featured entries from the November Art Dare, and we will also be announcing the January Art Dare. If you'd like to grow as an artist and you can't take an art class, we've got everything you need here at Art Prof: critiques, tutorials, professional development, and workshops. The November Art Dare was to create an artwork that was not a rectangle. This was an opportunity for people to experiment with different types of shapes. So the first artist we're going to look at is Isaka. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, who has a fantastically succinct artist statements. I wish all artist statements could be this straightforward, who says, it was fun. Fantastic. That's exactly what the art dares are meant to be, a chance to experiment and do something fun. And you can see that not only is this a really unusual expressive shape, but so many different supplies and materials went into making this piece. And you can see, even though parts of the shape are cut out and really clear-cut shapes, actually one of my favorite parts is on the left-hand side, where you have the crinkled paper that is creating the contour of the artwork, which is really, really fun. And I think the mixed media is really working together. I actually really like, if people can see, there's this orange beaded border, which I think emphasizes that shape, but it also interacts with sections like the feathers. It sort of holds things in place, but it has a decorative element as well. But then the feathers make this look a little wild. So it's a really cool piece because it's got a balance of some organization because of the way that things are put together. But there's also this explosive chaos that happens between all of those different materials. And you can see what a difference this swirly white line here. You have these very blunt white highlights, and Isaka even sneaks in this little shred of blue on top of green. And so I love, Isaka, the risks that you took to put this together. Savne's asking, are those sparkly gems? I don't think so. They look like paint to me with really strong white highlights, but they definitely have the effect of something that is sparkling, which is super fun. All right, let's look at the next artist. This is Linda Bullard. And Linda talks about how she spent 4 extra hours in the university's atelier to paint this portrait in an oval shape. And so the idea was to do a face shape, put a face into it, but the contours were not flush. But in the process, notice I'd painted the face a little too big to realize my plan. And Linda used herself as a reference. And it's like looking at herself in the mirror. I'm standing in a position that lets only half my face appear in the mirror. So this is done in water mixable oils. And I love it when people send us the work in progress shots so we can see the development of how the piece really came together. And you can see here, it really feels unresolved because it's in a rectangle and it's not put together entirely. But wow, check out these just beautiful brushstrokes by Linda. Nice eye socket. I am really excited about that. Or it could just be because I got my skeleton. So I'm like really thinking about anatomy lately. But Linda, I just love how fleshy this looks. I can feel the difference between the cheekbone, which is more rigid, but then you also have these folds of skin that come downwards and have a very different quality. But then there's also the eyebrow, which has a lot of texture to it. And so you can see this is here the final piece. And I like how 7A says, got an old-timey locket portrait feel. And you can see that the shape makes this painting. I mean, there's a million people painting self-portraits out there, and sometimes they'll start to look really similar. But isn't it amazing that the mirror is suggested because of that oval, and because we see a fragment of the face, not just straight on, that also really supports that narrative. So I think this is such a great example that just that one choice to make it not a rectangle created a narrative. It's so simple, but it's really effective. So 7A wants to know about my skeleton. He's in the back. I have not named him yet. I was sort of thinking about Hugh, but I was like, I don't really love Hugh for his skeleton. I like all kinds of other things about Hugh, but I don't really think about his skeleton that much. But then I think maybe it should be art history related, because I really like Bruegel's Triumph of Death painting, which is thousands of skeletons attacking people in a war. Look it up. It's a fantastic painting. So maybe I should name him Bruegel. I don't know. We'll see. Karasu wants Hugo. Okay, we'll see. I haven't really thought it through just yet. All right, the next artist we're going to look at is Sal DeVito, who says he used a template of a wood panel that he made for a previous project, just had fun drawing things inside and outside the shape. Isn't that so cool how you can have something that you take from an old project and then essentially you repurpose it into another piece? And for me, that's so exciting when you see pieces almost get a second life. And so you can see here, we started out with that shape, the wood template that Sal talked about. And then you can see Sal is adding some of the serpents. And now we're getting some of the color into that shape. So it's really, really fun to see how we can have continuity between our projects. I mean, we might oftentimes think that they are totally unrelated, but actually they can be. So Sal, I think that was brilliant for you to bring in that wood template. And I love the serpent, because if we look at the shape before the serpent was added, it's symmetrical and it doesn't have the dynamic quality that you get when you add that serpent that's sort of navigating through in this loopy track throughout the entire piece. And then I like the color, because the color allows certain things to pop forward. For example, when I looked at the line drawing, I actually didn't really notice the tiger on the left-hand side. I was looking at more the face because it was more recognizable. But here, because you have that dark purple in the background, that orange of the tiger really leaps out beautifully. Yes, this is Sal the Italian. I just love that. Sal, I'll always remember that about you. I just think it's the greatest thing. Counselor Chip says all of my mistakes get a second life. Some end up as fuel. Well, hey, I mean, if you work with wood, I can see why that would happen. And I believe here we have another iteration, because now the tiger has turned into a fox, and you can see some of the changes with the figure as well. So I think these are two separate pieces. Sal, maybe if you're in the chat or later on, you could let us know. But really cool that there are multiple iterations happening here. And then here we have the red background, which really makes things pop. So wonderful progression of pieces, Sal. And this is definitely a big, deep dive into shape that I think is really outstanding. All right, the next artist we're going to look at is Emma Maloney. And Happy New Year to you, Toronto, as well. Tell me in the chat, how has your year been? The way I would describe it is I haven't had to put out any fires yet. I mean, we'll see how long that lasts. But I was like, okay, today's fine. This is good. As long as there's no drama, I'm totally cool. So tell me how that's going. And I know some people have, as always, New Year's resolutions. I said on Instagram the other day that my resolution is to make art and keep my kids alive. Just make your expectations low. It makes things a lot more doable. So Emma says that she wanted to create a collage in 2-point perspective to create a burning building inspired by paintings that Emma saw on Pinterest. And so Emma did a cardboard piece that was cut up, ripping the paper, gluing them onto the outline. And Emma says, I'd appreciate advice on how to make the piece less busy. Okay, we can definitely make some suggestions for that. First of all, Emma, you did a great job with the 2-point perspective. I think it's quite good. I think the right-hand side is verging, well, I don't know, this might actually be 3-point perspective. Now that I look at it, yeah, it's less 2-point. It's because of the slants on the left or the right-hand side. It has a little touch of 3-point perspective. It's not that dramatic, but it is in there because perspective is one of those things. It's one thing or it's not. But Emma, what I really like about this piece is you have the geometry, the solidity of the building feels very concrete and structured and architectural. But then you have this amorphous, organic quality to the shapes of the fire that are coming out. And I think that's a really beautiful transition because there's a lot of contrast between the two areas. The section with the smoke and the fire, it looks very haphazard. And then we have almost these shards of glass that are making up the windows. I think in terms of maybe making it less busy, Emma, you might think a little bit more about value in terms of your colors, because you have all these very dark colors in the building, these dark blues. And so part of making it less busy is having a couple shades that are much lighter. Because if I were to take this image and put it into black and white, the value range would actually be pretty gray. So Emma, one thing you can try doing, let's say one of the windows in the building is a really bright blue color, that will make that space feel more simplified because of all these beautiful details, but you can have too much of a good thing. So it's about having a couple shapes that are more simple. So that way you are somehow able to have more resting places. In the fire, I think this is fine. The fire, I would expect that degree of chaos. But I think it's probably in the architecture of the building where you can afford to simplify some of the shapes. I mean, it's really ambitious what you're doing. Even the frame of the building is cut up with all these little strips, which is truly extraordinary, but it could be that you don't need that many pieces, that maybe you could keep it a little bit more simple. Jane says, this is really interesting. I like the abstract feel. And we have Ginger who says, my year's off to a rough start. I found out my dog doesn't have much time left today. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Ginger, to hear about that. And actually, I should tell you guys, I haven't really been able to talk about it, but Pook passed away, I think about 2 months ago. I was so upset about it that I couldn't talk about it online. But one of the reasons it was really hard with Pook is that he was only 2 years old. He was a really young pig, and it was really sudden. We really were not expecting it. So it was very sudden, and it was also very fast. And it wasn't something that we were prepared for, and it was a real shock for us. So we actually have 2 new pigs that you guys will get to meet very, very soon. And their names are Pom Pom and Gumby. So you guys will have an opportunity to meet them at some point. Because, oh gosh, I cannot believe you would never think that a little puff of fur could make you so emotional. We were just torn up when he passed away. So I'm so sorry to hear that. All right, let's take a look at the next artist, who is William Wentzel. And William talks about an overall nostalgia theme. And so things like music boxes, paper dolls, porcelain ballerina, walnut music box. And then there's images of a piece called a graffiti flower. There's another one about childhood memories, doing silly television shows. So I just love so much that, first of all, William did several pieces. And second of all, wow, there's a lot of history to a lot of these objects that William is talking about. And I love this one. It has such a great gesture. I think the clothing is very expressive, especially down here. Does everybody see these little tiny wrinkles on the side of the pants? I feel like that gives it a lot of personality. And talk about shape. I mean, this is somebody who's really digging into shape and being bold about it. Shape is not an easy thing. I think it's a little confusing because you think shape, oh yeah, we know what shape is. It doesn't seem that difficult to understand what it is. Most people have a basic understanding of it, but to actually implement it into your piece in a way where it is impactful in the composition, in this case, not having a rectangle, but also what I like about William's piece, not only are there shapes, but does everybody see how the shapes are overlapping each other? So you have shapes behind other shapes. And I especially like the green shape at the bottom, seems to be wandering off somewhere. It's a really nice play in the composition. Oh yeah, Jane, let me explain this. So part of it is that December, I give our staff, I take them off certain tasks so they can have some time off. And so I was doing a lot of the Art Dare stuff, and I wasn't doing it as consistently as the staff. So that's not you. That's called, I was trying to do everybody's job in December and not succeeding. So yeah. All right, everybody. We have some prizes to give out. We're giving the honorable mention to Emma Maloney. Congratulations, Emma, on your piece, which we thought was absolutely fantastic. And the prize goes to Linda Bullard. Congratulations, everybody. Great job. I'm so proud of you. Every month, the way people engage and experiment and have fun, try something different. It's really wonderful. All right, let's talk about the January Art Dare. And I confess, this is a very selfish Art Dare because this is what I'm thinking about, borders. And so therefore, that's what we're doing for the Art Dare. But I think it's a good signifier that what we are thinking and doing influences other parts of our lives. And I thought, this would be a really good Art Dare because it is very diverse, endless ways to make a border, but it also is a visual structure that I don't think everybody has an opportunity to explore for one reason or another. I can tell you that I've never made a border until I started working on the ones that I'm doing right now. So here are some little experiments that I've been doing. And actually tell me in the comments, who here has done an artwork with a border before? And what did you do it for? Because I think sometimes borders, people associate them with frames, and also oftentimes books will have borders or children's books or things like that. But there are tons of different ways that you can interpret a border. There's no end of how that can be seen. Well, Annette's asking, wonder if the piece I'm working on right now would count. There's a partial collage style border planned, though I'm technically started in December, so probably not. Yeah, we do require for people to create the Art Dare that month. So if it's a piece that you started previously, it doesn't technically count, but that doesn't mean you can't work on it with everybody during the month. I mean, obviously we have these official streams and entries and everything, but really the point of the Art Dare is to get people together, thinking about something similar, and really getting ideas from each other. So this is a really sloppy marker sketch that I put together, and then I inverted it into Photoshop because I wanted to make sure this would work. I don't usually do a lot of digital work, but I thought, oh, I don't want to paint the whole thing. And then the other thing is that the painting doesn't have enough space. So somehow I have to do that. And so I mocked it up really sloppy. I was like, oh, this is good. This will work, right? Yesterday I was like, I'm going to finish. No. Other plans. You guys ever have that? Where you're like, today's the day. I just have this one thing and I'm going to be, and it is like, you end the day realizing it's like 3 more days to finish what you wanted to do because something went wrong, as always. Ginger says, this could be interesting. I have been making stamps, so maybe a stamp border. Oh, that's brilliant. It's so smart because a lot of borders are repetitive. They have patterns or things that repeat. So that would be really good. Oh, I love Karasu. Closest I've made is a ceramic picture frame in 7th grade. I mean, that totally counts. Absolutely. Lena says, I use a lot of borders in design work. Don't usually make my own. Would be interesting to invent your unique ones. Oh, totally. That would be really fantastic. So Neil says, don't really make borders. This is new. And it seems like, yes, it always takes more time than you planned. So I had this whole plan. I was like, okay, I'm going to paint it traditionally just because that's how my brain works. I'm sure there's some way to do this in Illustrator with vectors, but I have no idea. And I thought, oh, I'll just do it in black because that'll be easier. I don't know why. I really could have done it in white paint. And I was like, I'll just invert it in Photoshop and that'll work just fine. And so I did some digital cleanup, inverted it in Photoshop, and I start putting it together. I'm like, I did the mock-up. It's going to be fine. And then I make it. I'm like, I don't like this. It looks really bad because the digital part's too clean and it doesn't match the painting style at all. And I was like, oh my God, I should have just done it traditionally to begin with. Like, why did I spend all this time in Photoshop doing this digital thing that doesn't look good at all? But then it's like, it was several hours to get to this point, and I just like, oh, has anybody had a moment like this recently? But then I stopped. I said, okay, maybe you can get the digital thing to work. Let's just try it again. Even though I was like crying that I was going to have to start over. So I took pieces of the painting and I made them transparent. And then I put them over the digital border. I'm not sure this is what I'm going to do, but it's better than what I had before. And I have to think through some other options, but I think it's very likely, you guys. I'm just going to pitch the whole digital thing and just paint it because stylistically, the shapes and the marks don't really fit. And so here's the same thing I just showed you guys, but it's 3 different versions. So in one of them, the pattern's a little bit darker, the other one's a little bit lighter, and one is very, very bright. So this is plenty of work for you guys because I was like, oh, it's just a border. I'll just throw it together. And it just did not happen at all. Oh, this is great. From Pat, who says, I like to play with quadrant and radial symmetry and Procreate to play with designs, but I've never made a finished product. Well, this sounds like a good time to make that happen. AA has made them for birthday cards. Oh, great idea, Amanda, to make borders out of stencils. I mean, this would be a great printmaking project. I mean, you could do a border, just carve one piece of linoleum block and then make the border that way. And great, Karasu's already coming up with ideas. Yes, I know, Lena. I'm not good at design, you guys, and it's really showing. And actually, I'm very excited about this, is we are having a graphic designer come on the stream, I think it's in 2 weeks, Ashley, and she is going to teach me how to get started learning graphic design, because my goal for 2024 is to start working in the movie poster industry. And I think I do have to have some basic understanding of graphic design, those principles and things. And I never would have thought that I ever would have taken the leap to learn graphic design. And it's not to say that I want to be a graphic designer, but if I'm going to work with designers, I have to understand their thought process. And so she's going to come on. And actually, I'm wondering how many people here have an interest in graphic design, or maybe you already work in design, or maybe you are a graphic design master. So let me know, because of my own, again, selfish reasons why I program things is I want to learn graphic design. And so now we're all going to learn graphic design together. Tell me if that's of interest to you. And actually, Kat said to me that I don't necessarily have to do everything digital. She said, you can do all that stuff traditionally. And now I'm realizing that's what I should have done. This is a great example of a border that's very minimal, because the one I showed you guys earlier of the Indian paintings, I mean, those borders are huge and they're super intricate. This one by Erte, who is an Art Nouveau artist, it's super minimal. And you can see his designs, they're very graceful, they're elegant, they have all these flowing lines. And so this could be your border. Nobody says that the border has to be substantial. I think decisions like using the same colors in the border are really good, but nobody here should feel like their border has to be excessively ornate. It doesn't have to be. It's just the concept of a border, and how would you match that to the artwork. I mean, I love this one. It's got this celestial feel to it, and his work is extremely detailed and impeccable craftsmanship. So take a look at his work. I think he does a great job. Actually, this is a book I was really obsessed with when I was a kid. Does anybody know this book? This book caused a big controversy because it was a puzzle that led you to this treasure that the author had buried, and it became this whole fiasco. But I love this book, and I had these illustrations memorized. And so the puzzle is actually in the words, it's in various parts of the illustrations, but you can see here the border plays a different role, that it's there to pique your curiosity, it's there to lay a bunch of clues for you to think about. And then there's all these book covers, and the, I guess, quintessential artist book, in my opinion, the Book of Kells. Oh, I want to see the Book of Kells so bad, you guys. I would totally have a fit if I got to see the Book of Kells in person. I guess I'm going to have to go to Ireland, but it's just this extraordinary illuminated manuscript. And this was, I suppose, before they had Netflix, and monks sat around illuminating these manuscripts over and over again for hours on end. I just think this is extraordinary. What people, I mean, this is from the 9th century. Can you conceive of how old this was? Think about what they were working with. It's just so nuts to me. And we also have lots of comments here about graphic design. And Jen has a degree. I know some of it, but it's not for me. Cool. That's fine. A lot of people do that and switch what they're doing. And Damien says, I have a bit of experience, a little bit of graphic design for a commission every now and then. And Neil is asking, the border can be organic as opposed to geometric, right? Oh, absolutely. You can make the border however you want. It does not have to look like the examples. And I think that's the fun part of this Art Dare, is that you can just run wild. I mean, you could make your border look like it's made out of noodles if you want. It totally would be fine. And Orangina says, I thought the ship sailed, but hearing that you want to learn it, I'm similar age as you, you're inspiring me. Can we learn along with you more than one stream? Yes, because I was talking to Ashley about it, how we were going to structure the stream. And once we started talking, I was like, this is not one stream. You're going to have to come on at least twice to start talking about things. And I confess, I never thought I would find it interesting, but actually put together all these supplies and resources for me to start learning. And I started reading some of the articles. It's like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. It's amazing. Learning all the terminology and how people organize things. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to learn more about this. Yeah, very cool. So if you want to do the Art Dare Leap, you can create 4 artworks, which means you're going to create 4 borders. Remember, we also have the Art Dare channel in the Discord, and this is just so fun for people to post their progress throughout the month, talk about different ideas, jump in there and post a sketch, a work in progress. It's so great to work on something together because, of course, we love working on our own personal projects, but it is definitely a different dynamic. When you have other people you can bounce your ideas off of. And remember, to officially enter, you want to tag us at art.prof on Instagram, and you want to use hashtag #ArtProfDare. And if you don't have Instagram, we do have an option where you go to artprof.org, and you can see in the main menu, Art Dares is under Learn and Create. And then if you scroll down to the Art Dare page, you will see there is a link for a Google form, and you can use that instead of submitting on social media. Just don't submit in both places. Either the form or the Instagram is just fine. Guess what? We're having a Discord chat right after the stream. So you're going to want to meet me in the post live streams channel so we can talk more, because there are all these cool comments that I wasn't able to get to during the stream. Guess what? I just announced a couple hours ago the January and February workshops. We're going to really focus this series of workshops on techniques based on specific media, so we can really dig into the supplies. Colored pencil, mixed media painting, clothing drapery, portraits and proportions, soft pastel, and charcoal. Join our Patreon group. This is a chance for you to share your art in our weekly voice sessions, get support and critiques from me, and most of all, finding support in a small group of artists. You can sponsor a video, help us create content for our community. I have so many videos I want to make for everybody, but can't make the time because I have to do boring administrative stuff. But when you sponsor video, it makes it possible, especially for those more obscure techniques that are tougher for me to make time for. Huge thank you to our top Patreon supporters. I mean it. You guys are keeping the lights on, and I am so eternally grateful to all of you for supporting us. Visit artprof.org. We have so much content on there that's not on YouTube. Use the search bar. Art Prof has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And subscribe to our channel for more tutorials, critiques, and business tips. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.